So again, for your monochrome photo, what you want to do is open it up in Photoshop, do the adjustments that you need to. If you remember, image adjustments, you can do your levels from there, or do auto color, auto tone. You can do that stuff while it's still in color. But to actually go ahead and take it or move it into black and white and the monochrome setting, once you have your image in Photoshop, again, what you want to do is just go to Image, Adjustments, and go all the way down to Desaturate. All right. When you desaturate it, you're just going to take all the saturation or all the color out of the photo itself. All right. So I'm just going to hit Desaturate. You see right now it just turned it into a black and white. Now, in the original context or the original photo just going in black and white, like I said, with the dress being extremely white anyway, we have some whites, but we don't really have anything in our photo that's a black. And one of the things you have, or you want to have, especially when you have a monochrome, is you want to have blacks that are black and whites that are white. Sometimes that happens, but often that doesn't happen in a photograph. So there's a couple things we can do to actually increase this. I know if some of you guys had the black and white photography, you did different things with filters, maybe some dodging and burning. You can do that in Photoshop as well, but there's a couple other things that can do it quicker, if I can say it that way. So if I have it this way, if I click on my layers, all right, it brings up my background layer. I'm just going to leave it up front right now so you can see it. And there's a couple different ways. If you want to right click, you want a duplicate layer, there's also a button down here for duplicate layer or add a layer, and I'm just going to add a duplicate layer. All right, brings up the same thing. In my second layer, in this case it's background copy is what it made because I didn't change the name. I want to actually change this layer to what says overlay. And I put the overlay, you see it really makes it dark. It actually is taking two layers and putting them on top of each other so you can see through it. But I don't want it to be that dark. I'm actually going to change the opacity to right around 50%. All right, you can play around with that. But what happens, I'll just shoot this over here a little bit. Sorry, so you can see it, but not take out the picture frame. I'll just leave it out, I guess. We don't want to do that either. There it is. All right, so you can see it is, if I turn the eyeball off and on, you see the difference that it does make. This is a lot of gray tones with the original, but just putting that overlay, you get a little bit more of the blacks blacker, if I can say it that way, the darks darker, and that's a good thing that you want to include. All right, just putting that overlay in any of your images there. The other thing that you should do and look at as well is if you go into layers, and then there's a one in here, it says new adjustment layer, and I'm going to click on the exposure. So layers, new adjustment layer, and exposure. I said okay. It brings up another slider, case of slider bars here. And this is where you can adjust your exposures. Remember way back at the beginning of the semester we talked about just different exposures and ISO and different shutter speeds and different f-stops. And we can increase or decrease the exposure. And you see if I do this, if I go down the exposure, it makes it a little darker. If I move up, it moves it lighter. Now again, for the setting that was in here, we don't have to really adjust it a whole lot. I'm going to actually take it down a little bit just to get more of the detail in the dress and where the shadows to show up. You can play around too with the offset and how that works, the overall brightness. For this photo, I'm not really going to change it at all. Gamma, you can see what that does as well. You can just slide that. I'm just going to increase this just a little bit, not a whole lot. All right, my gamma area. All right, just close out of that guy. The other thing that I'm going to do is, again, layer and adjustment layer and go to brightness and contrast. All right, again, just hit OK. Just show you the brightness and contrast. And again, you can slide this around. Brightness, that's especially if you don't have any whites in your photo. If you do have something, like I said, in this case with her dress, we don't really want to increase the brightness because then we lose a lot of that detail. All right, but if you didn't necessarily have some of the whites, you might want to increase that. I'm actually going to go down a little bit. So again, it shows a little bit more detail in the dress area. All right, the contrast as well, I'm just going to up that a little bit so we get more of the contrast, especially in some of the darks. We'll lighten that out and we get a little bit more detail that way. So just by going to desaturate right there, let's pull that palette out here. Just by going to desaturate and then doing those two things, making the overlay brightness and contrast and exposure layers, we really can add a lot more whites and blacks, and it gives us a lot more contrast with your monochrome photo. So you want to go ahead and do that with all your monochrome photos. Okay. Let's close.